illegal immigration is real, right, in the Latino community, so you just can't wish it away. But it's a tiny fraction of a larger community, and it's a fraction that puts the entire group in a very bad light. And so when that happens, psychologically it kicks into gear this reaction where people that strongly identify as a group member try to come to the rescue of the group. And in politics, that often manifests itself as being or becoming way more pro-Latino than you would have in the absence of any kind of that rhetoric. So in some ways, it's this paradoxical kind of effect, because a lot of the rhetoric that you hear about illegal immigration is about all these bad things, right, about how these individuals might be. They don't love America. They don't want to enter the mainstream. They keep to themselves. And some of that is actually a reaction to that kind of rhetoric. It's not it's a direct consequence of it. You look at something like immigration, actually even illegal immigration. That should be a Republican issue, right? On the grounds that it's a strictly economic problem. The reason that you have a lot of people here with unauthorized status is because there was never enough visas to go around, but there was economic demand for their labor. And so you're in this mess, but that's very conservative Republican language, right? Which is let the markets work it out, right? And if you would have let the markets work it out, what you would have seen instead of what we have now is a good majority of those 12 million or so folks that are here without authorized status, you would have actually seen them come here to work for about 9 months a year, but never have brought their family, and then go back for Christmas, and then come back for another 9 months. And we probably would have never gotten this whole business where there's 12 million of them, and then whoever they actually had as children, right? And so now it's a lot messier. But, I think Republicans could, in principle, talk about that issue on their terms, I think in a much more constructive way, because if it's about markets, if it's about supply and demand, that to me does not sound like Democratic language. It sounds like Republican language. Never mind that illegal immigration per se, just Mexican migration specifically. There's been more net out migration, right, in the last 5 years or so than in migration. That's huge. That's huge as far as wall building. I mean, that's ineffectiveness at its best. The problem is not there. And the problem is not there in part because of stricter enforcement at the border. I mean, believe it or not, past administrations, Democratic and Republican, have actually done a lot to try to actually secure that southern border. Part of it has worked. The other part is, a lot of Mexican migration was economically fueled. You're really talking about a nice portion of Mexico's countryside coming to the U.S. in large part because it made relatively more economic sense. Even if you were far away, you could earn noticeably more by being in another place. A lot of that has changed in the last 25 or so years. Mexico is not the Mexico of the 1980s when it was defaulting on its debts, for example. Now it's considered, one of the emerging economies. We also forget we signed NAFTA, right? And that was meant to integrate markets for goods, services, but what didn't get sold to the American people was also people. It was supposed to help facilitate cross movement of folks, including for work, right? I would also say that if some politicians insist on this whole, we're going to get tougher on immigration, blah, 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 that's fine, I think, for political points. Economically, I think what you're doing is you're incentivizing American businesses to just relocate, right? And so what that means is if you can't get cheap labor, say for your agricultural fields, then just go sow fields where the workers are. And that's actually already happening.